Greetings. Today I'm going to be reviewing the 1996 film Ransom. It's a crime thriller starring Mel Gibson. Basic rundown of the plot is Mel Gibson's character, Tom Mullen, is a lot of money, he's really rich, and he's in charge of an airline. And he's got a son, I'm not sure how old, but I think around like 10-ish, something like that. And he gets kidnapped. And the movie is about him trying to get his kid back. As you can probably tell by the title, the kidnappers demand a ransom of $2 million. Now, throughout the course of the film, Mullen attempts to get his kid back by playing along with what the kidnappers want, following all their instructions to the letter. However, this doesn't necessarily work out, because the cops come in when he first drops off the money, and they end up killing one of the kidnappers. After this, he really begins to lose faith in the cops and their ability to rescue his son, and he tries to take it into his own hands a bit. Then he has a bit of an epiphany. He realizes that if he pays them the money, they'll just kill his son. He goes on live television and offers a bounty to whoever should bring the kidnapper to him, dead or alive. His hope is that the kidnappers will come to their senses and give his son back. Otherwise, they risk being hunted for the rest of their life for that bounty money. Now, it doesn't get anyone to actually go after them, but it does kind of throw the kidnappers off quite a bit. Eventually, after he doubles down and increases the bounty reward to $4 million, this leads to the kidnappers, their plans falter, they fall apart and all that. I'll elaborate on that a little bit later when I talk about the ending. That's essentially the basics of the plot. It's a really good film. I just want to say that. I want to get out of the way. I really enjoyed it. One of the biggest strengths I think that it had was the kidnappers. There were quite a few of them. I think there was 5 in total. There was the main one, the main antagonist, who is a cop. He's played by Lieutenant Dan, and he's a very good antagonist. He's the one who handles all the business, he handles all the phone calls. He pretty much knows everything that the cops are gonna do. He rings up, he'll be like, oh, how's the linguist doing with my accent and stuff like that. He knows what's going on. And Mullen's, saying, oh, I didn't get the cops. We all know he's lying. Seriously, has there ever been a kidnapping on any movie, TV show, or anything where the kidnappers say, don't call the cops, and they actually don't call the cops? They always call them. It always happens. I don't even know why they bother saying don't call the cops. It just never works. Not that I was seeing. Yeah, this main mastermind, this police dude, his name's James Shaker. He's the mastermind behind everything. The actor did a very good job, and he's actually somewhat intimidating as well. And he's got a few people working for him as well. The most unimportant one of the lot is there's this one guy, he drinks throughout the movie a lot. I somewhat suspect that he's using other substances as well. He's there, but he doesn't really do much in the story. Shaker also has a girlfriend. She's the only woman amongst the kidnappers. And then the last 2 are a pair of brothers. I think these ones are actually the best kidnapping characters in the movie. They're not as intimidating as Shaker. They sort of fill a different role. See, one of those brothers is, I guess he's the nicest of the group. He feeds the kid chocolate and other stuff. And he's telling him a joke at some point and all that. And he gets told off by the others, trying to be nice to the kid. They're saying, it's a waste of time. He's also somewhat uncomfortable with the possibility that the kid will die. He doesn't actually want the kid to die. He got into the thing thinking that they were going to give the kid back once the ransom's paid, which I quite like it. He's doing a very bad thing, but the fact that he feels uncomfortable like killing a kid. Like, he's got some morals. It makes him feel a bit more real. Ultimately, though, he gets sent out to collect the ransom. The cops come out, chase him around for a bit, and then after he shoots at the cops, they take him out with a sniper, and he ends up dying shortly thereafter. I like how the movie actually had this death have an impact. It wasn't just like some random henchman dies. There's repercussions for it. I mentioned he had a brother. His brother actually grieves for him, you know. He's all sad and upset, and then he gets really angry. He wants to kill the kid and just end everything and all that. And Shaker has to, you know, calm him down, put him in his place and say, you know, we're still in this, get yourself together. And he's, you know, upset because he wants to, you know, tell his mum as well that his brother has died, and he's getting told he can't do that. One of the other kidnappers says to him, you can't go to your brother's funeral either. He does not like that, but it does make him feel a lot more real, and I quite like that. I like my characters to feel real. Obviously they're still bad guys. Even bad people are humans too. To see them react like humans makes it feel genuine. Now, one of the greatest things, I think, is kind of how the tables get turned a bit in this film. At the start, obviously, Mullen's kid gets kidnapped, and then, you know, kidnappers call and they having him do all this different stuff. He's completely in their control. The situation's in the kidnapper's control, and Shaker's the one in charge. And he's having Mullen run around in circles, jumping through hoops to finally get to, you know, where he delivers the ransom, and the cops are like, no idea where he's gone and stuff. They end up catching on later though, and as I mentioned earlier, they take out that one kidnapper, and then after that, Shaker tries to regain control of the situation. He sets up another ransom drop-off, and this time Mullen wants to go alone, not bring the cops with him. On his way though, he has a bit of an epiphany. He instead decides to go on live television where he proclaims to the kidnappers that they will not see a single dollar of the ransom money, and he will in fact offer it as a reward for the kidnappers, dead or alive. This is where it starts to turn from Shaker being in control to, I don't want to say Mullen being in control, he's not in control, but they start to clash a bit, you know? Kidnappers' plans are not working 100% well now. Shaker tries to regain control again. He goes after Mullen's wife, and even the FBI agents are like trying to urge Mullen to retract the reward and just pay the money. Everyone just keeps telling him, just pay the money, but he's determined not to, and he believes that if he does pay the money, that his son will die. So he sticks to his guns, doubles the reward, and this is when shit hits the fan for the kidnappers. Shaker decides to go a different route. As I mentioned earlier, he's a cop. What he does is he, in public, goes to where his other kidnappers are, and he announces that he's going to arrest them. They try and get away, and he ends up shooting them, and he fakes it to make it look like they were trying to kill him, and then his girlfriend shoots him in the shoulder, but she doesn't end up going through with killing him, and he takes her out. And then he goes to where the kid is. The police come in, they find him there, and he's like, I'm a cop, I'm a cop. He's hailed as a hero, the one who saved the Mullen kid. This was a really good twist. It makes sense that he feels cornered. It's his plan to try and get the money. After Shaker gets out of hospital, he goes and visits Mullen at his home to get the bounty money. They talk for a bit, and he wants to, you know, he just wants to get his money and get out of there. There's a few little things that kind of happen during the scene that build the tension. Shaker actually asks him, why didn't you just pay the ransom? And Mullen talks about how, because I was dealing with like human garbage, it was clear that any deal I made wouldn't have been honoured. And it's so funny that he's just saying this to the, you know, man who'd kidnapped his son, and he doesn't even know it yet. But then a few things that tip Mullen off. First, his son kind of comes around the corner and he's like visibly shaking at the side of Shaker, and like he pees himself as well. Shaker doesn't see the kid there, but this is the first sort of thing that starts to tip Mullen off that something's wrong. And then there's a line as well that Shaker says that he said earlier as the kidnapper on the phone. That's kind of the thing that solidifies it. So he writes a check, gives it to Shaker, and he's like saying, "Oh yeah, probably want to get out of here now," and all that. Shaker throws the check away, realizing that it's bogus now, that he's been caught, and he pulls out a gun. After a bit of a debate, Mullen convinces him to go down to the bank with him so they can wire him the money straight into his account, and he agrees to this. They go down to the bank. Mullen is able to very cleverly tip off the cops without Shaker realizing. Anyway, so they arrive at the bank, they get out, and they go in and they wire the money. When they come out, some cops come over saying that they have to detain Shaker. So he pulls out his gun, he shoots both the cops, but then Mullen tackles him onto the road, and the two of them start fighting on the street. They end up having a bit of a foot chase, and then eventually they end up going through the window of a shop on the side of the road. Shaker's knocked on the ground for a little bit, giving Mullen enough time to pick up his gun, and he's pointing it at Shaker. And there's a bit of a standoff for a moment. All the cops are there, and they're like shouting at Mullen to put the gun down. And Shaker's sitting there, he's like bleeding all over. Mullen's got his gun pointed at Shaker, ready to shoot him. And just as he begins to lower it, Shaker pulls out his own gun, but then Shaker gets shot before he can get anyone with it. And that is the end. I thought it was a really, really good film. I think overall the main strength is, of course, the kidnappers. I think they felt real, they felt genuine, and Shaker felt like an actual threat. But it was also entertaining when his plans started to fall down a bit and he got quite angry, and he was trying to, do his best to recover some semblance of a plan and figure out how to get his money back. I think it was done very well. There's also quite a few scenes, like just little small scenes that I really liked and appreciated. There's this one bit which is sort of funny where one of the FBI people is on the phone to his wife, trying to pass on a loving message to his kid. And he says, like, "I'm glad we're not rich," just as Mullen's coming around the corner and overhears it. I thought that was funny because it was in very poor taste, but it was an entertaining little moment. There's also a scene pretty early on after Mullen's kid is first kidnapped, and the phone starts ringing, and he goes to answer it, and the cop stops him so he can, tell him the plan and run him through all this stuff. So it goes on for quite a few seconds, when he's explaining everything he's got to do, all the stuff he's going to say, and the phone's ringing, and it's a really great scene because it starts to build the tension. And then eventually he answers it, and it's just the secretary or something. I thought that was quite funny. I did kind of see it coming, but it was pretty good. The action scenes were few and far between, but they were very well done. A lot of movies I've seen have bad action scenes, where you can't tell what's going on. It's very confusing. But the ones in this film were really good, you could tell what was happening, and there was only a couple though. It didn't overwhelm me with action, which I like. It didn't rely on action for its impact and all that. It focused on the story and how the characters are interacting and kind of playing off each other. So I thought it was quite good. So that was my thoughts on Ransom. I highly recommend it. I just watched it on a DVD because I don't know if it's on any streaming sites. I know it was on Netflix, and then they took it off, apparently. We just had a DVD lying around anyway. If you liked this video, then feel free to do all the usual stuff to show that you liked it, you know. There's likes, there's comments, there's subscribing. You've heard this all before. This is what every YouTuber says. You know what to do. I trust that you'll do the right thing. Anyway, see ya.